should always be testing different bidding strategies. I don't think you should just kind of be happy once you found one that works. Google have a really good feature inside Google Ads called experiments. Make use of that. When you've got a client maybe for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, you're happy with the results, but you're just trying to figure out what can I do to push it a little bit more. Is there any more juice I can squeeze out of this campaign? Look to use an experiment and try a different bidding strategy.
How's it going, everybody? It's the PPC Cave. I'm your co-host, Gene Villanos, and we have Ryan Fenton in the building, and you have both of us for today. Ryan, how's it going?
Really, really good. The reason why I'm wearing the Celtics hat today is because the Boston Celtics just won the NBA championship, beating the Dallas Mavericks, Gene's team, in the finals. So I'm really happy about that. Gene, how do you feel?
Guys, if you're watching this on or listening to this on Spotify, you should definitely take a look on YouTube and you could just see the pain in my eyes as Ryan wears his bright green Celtics hat. But, I feel okay. Congratulations to the Celtics. Congratulations to Ryan. So, as a Mavericks fan, I'm just hoping to be there sometime in the future again.
Very well said. Hopefully
Yeah.
not, if the Celtics have anything to do with it. But no, it's obviously good to be back. I've taken a bit of time off, obviously had a vacation, a holiday that was really nice. I'm back into the swing of things, raring to go. And today we're going to be talking about different bidding strategies. So I think it's something that we've alluded to over many different episodes, but we had never actually got into the meat and bones of all the different bidding strategies. So it's kind of filling in that gap a little bit. Gene, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're still continuing on with our Google Ads for beginners. This is definitely still a beginner topic. Everyone needs to understand the bidding strategies and more so how we use them and integrate them through lead gen, e-commerce, and what we've seen in our experiences using these. So, just to kind of talk about some housekeeping things, we will definitely have several different types of formats moving on. We'll have series like this that continue on that probably will never end because we're all still a beginner in some way, some form, and sometimes we just need to be reminded of these baseline fundamental things. And we'll definitely even have one-off episodes where it might be something that's a news segment or something that's going on with Google Ads, as there's so many changes occurring lately. So we'll definitely have a mixture of these, but what remains the same is the value we provide. And every Monday, tuning in 12 a.m. Mountain Time, there's always going to be that Spotify and YouTube upload. So yeah, as we transition into bid strategies, just know we'll also talk about topics like freelancing and client tips. So we're really trying to broaden the horizon and make sure that what we're providing isn't just one-dimensional value. Any thoughts about the new topics that are coming up, Ryan, for our show?
I think the main thing is that we want to provide all our subscribers, all our followers, our listeners with the best tools and tricks and tips when it comes to Google Ads. So whether you're a beginner, whether you're an intermediate, whether you're a pro, freelancer, an agency, a business owner, whatever you are, we try and make it very introductory so that it's easy to get into, easy to listen to us, hopefully understand the advice that we give. And I think we're trying to cater to everybody, really. So whether you're a 5-10 year Google Ads veteran or if you're just getting into it now, hopefully what we talk about, what we teach, can resonate with you, and you can kind of understand it and go away and test these different things, and try them for yourself. So that's what I think at the end of the day. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the goal here. And moving into the value portion of our show, Ryan will take it away with the bid strategies that he'll discuss.
Cool. Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk about three, and I think Gene's going to talk about three as well. So the three that I am going to talk about are more geared towards lead generation, You could also use these for shopping and, you know, maybe not, maybe one of them for performance max, but for the most part, they're very lead generation focused bidding strategies. So if you have any, lead generation clients on the book, any service-based businesses, then this is probably the segment for you. And I'm going to kick things off with my favorite bidding strategy, which is manual bidding. Um, I've always kind of been a bit more of the manual guy. I think in this relationship, I guess you could say you've always been a bit more of the automated bidding guy. But for me, manual is all about having full control over your campaign. You can decide how much impression share you want to get, looking at your search impression share metrics. You can decide what specific keywords you want to push and scale because you can see it over a long period of data. This keyword has been really profitable for me. It's driven so many conversions. I want to bid more aggressively for this individual keyword. I want to get this more of the same from based on what's historically converted. You can do all of those things and more with manual bidding. You talk about secondary level bidding adjustments as well, things like your ad schedule, locations, devices, audiences, all of these take into account your bid adjustments. I think for some bidding strategies, Google tends to ignore the secondary level stuff, the bidding adjustments. So I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on this one. It might have changed, but I remember that when you typically use maximize conversions, if you were to add a negative bid adjustment to tablet devices, which many of us do, I don't know if Google takes that and uses that as an optimizational kind of trigger or anything like that. I think it just kind of disregards it and does what it thinks. So I'm not 100% sure on that. But the thing is, with manual, you have that control. You have that control to say, right, I want to completely exclude advertising on tablets, push all the budget towards mobile phones, to computers. I want to, increase this location a little bit more than the other one. So many different things you can do with manual, whereas I'm not sure you can do them with the other ones. So this is why it's my favorite. There is a lot more work involved with manual. You have to be inside the search terms report on a regular basis, adding negative keywords. And I'd probably say that is, probably a theme throughout all different bidding strategies. You still need to clean up the data, the searches that come through the campaign. You want to make sure that you're only showing up for the high quality, relevant, best of class type of searches and traffic. So I would say it's just as important in manual, probably as well as the other ones, but there is a lot more work. And what I mean by that is, you can't just sit back and let Google do its thing. You have to go in and manually decide, okay, which ad group deserves which max CPC, cost per click limit, which keyword, what bid do I want this keyword to be? What bid do I want that keyword to be? And really, you need the data to make those decisions. You can't just do it on a whim. You can get started with something like maximize clicks and then switch over to manual bidding, or you could just go through for manual bidding from the get-go. Start off with something like a £5 or $5 max cost per click. After a couple of weeks, or even 7 days, even, look at the results, look at the data, and then go from there and make changes. So there is a lot more work involved at an individual keyword level than there are in other aspects of bidding strategies and things like that. So that's part of the fun for me, at least, because I'm a real big geek and nerd, is that I like to kind of individualize each keyword and say, right, I'd like this bid to be that, I'd like this bid to be this one for this keyword, and all that kind of good stuff. So that's one of the many benefits of manual. Like I said, search impression share, that's a big thing for me, at least. We always want to make sure we're hitting around 50-60% search impression share, which basically means 60% of the time, whenever somebody performs a search for any of the keywords you're bidding on, you're showing up. And that's what we want. We want full market coverage. So we don't want 100%, because not every search is quality. We probably don't even want 90% search impression share. If you're sitting somewhere around 60%, then you're doing something right, because not all searches are created equal. So you want to have good market coverage, but not to the point where you're showing up for every single search, because not every single search is profitable. Think about informational based searches. Think about things such as like free or jobs or whatever there is. There's so many nuances in terms of searches. So good market share coverage is important, and you can achieve that really, really well with manual bidding. But you might sit here, you might say, well, actually, what about enhanced CPC? Because that's similar to manual bidding. Do I check that box if I was going to use manual bidding? And, enhanced CPC, the last thing I heard, it was going away. I'm not seeing it happen yet. So maybe it's staying around for a little bit longer. But all that entails is that it's kind of semi-automatic, and the fact that you have full control using a manual bidding strategy. Of course you do. But if you were to select enhanced CPC, it gives Google a little bit of automation, a little bit of control to say, we're going to bid a little bit higher if we think this click is going to lead to a conversion. So typically, I don't use enhanced CPC. Normally, I just take the full reins with manual and just go to the races. Gene, what do you think about manual? You said to me the other day you've started to use more manual, right?
Yeah, using more manual because, of that one lead gen client that I have. But yeah, I mean, I use manual. I tend to graduate most accounts or campaigns from manual to automated maybe prematurely at times, but I think Google has kind of done a good job to, provide us signals where, it's not just you have to have 20 conversions, then you can graduate it to um, automated strategy. But yeah, I definitely do agree also with enhanced CPC. If I'm going to do manual, I want the full reins to be able to, bid on the product group level or search term level. So yeah, it definitely is a good. I mean, I think as a PPC manager, you have to be well versed with everything, right? You can't just, if you're just doing performance max from the beginning and you don't have the versatility to work through search terms on a manual perspective, then you're really taking a huge chunk of Google Ads optimization out of your toolbox. You have to know both of these things, because if you don't, then you're basically crippling yourself, because there will be some accounts that really thrive on more of a manual level where you could see toggle up and down this particular search term, or maybe you don't want to spend that much on this exact match, so you bid a little more on the phrase or the broad or whatever it may be. So for you not to learn that is definitely detrimental. That's why we have Ryan here to talk to us about the manual bid strategies, right?
Yeah, and Gene, you bring up a really good point, actually, something I didn't cover, so thank you for bringing that up. Is, when you go into structuring your campaign, you don't want to just kind of set broad match keywords to $5 or £5, phrase match to £5, and exact match to £5, because we know match types have changed over recent times. And broad match are usually low quality. They're usually often vague and bring up poor quality searches, with phrase match being a little bit more high quality and exact match being really high quality. So in theory, what we want to do is bid more aggressively on exact match keywords, have a higher bid, a higher max cost per click, because we want to drive high quality traffic. Then you would have a lesser bid, sort of like a medium range bid for phrase match, somewhere in the region of maybe £2.50 to £3, or $2.50 to $3. And then for broad match, you'd want it to be around $1 or £1 or 50 cents or 50p, because we know that it's going to spend a lot of the budget. It's going to trigger a lot of searches, oftentimes a lot of low quality searches. So we want to control that. And the best way we control that and maintain that is by using different max CPC bids for different match types. So that's kind of going off a little bit, but it's within the realm of manual bidding. So just as a heads up there. And another good point Gene mentioned just before I get on to the next one was that you should always be testing different bidding strategies. I don't think you should just kind of be happy once you found one that works. Google have a really good feature inside Google Ads called experiments. Make use of that. When you've got a client maybe for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, you're happy with the results, but you're just trying to figure out what can I do to push it a little bit more. Is there any more juice I can squeeze out of this campaign? look to use an experiment and try a different bidding strategy. You know, try maximize conversions, try target CPA, try ROAS, whatever industry you're in. Obviously, it depends, but I would always say with a bidding strategy, don't become too complacent and look to test where possible. So there is that to consider. Case in point, I had a HVAC and plumbing client a couple of years ago, and I was on a manual, and then I switched over to a maximize conversions, and we started to drive a lot more leads coming through at a better cost per acquisition as well. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. Getting on to the next one, maximize clicks, and this is probably the oldest bidding strategy in the book for Google Ads. I think it's the what smart bidding used to be called. Automated bidding, it was the go-to. It was just maximize clicks. And like I've said in my show notes, it's okay, I guess. I don't typically use it anymore. Sometimes there was a period where I was using it just for a couple of weeks to get a campaign up and running, to spend the budget, to get me some clicks, to get me some quick data. But I don't really tend to do that, especially for lead generation. I'll start with a manual bidding strategy, and then after a couple of weeks, maybe even 7 days now, go in, look at the data, and start really, refining that data and optimizing the data that I get. So I don't really tend to use maximize clicks, but as it says on the tin, it's going to maximize the number of clicks you get. So it's going to get you as many clicks as possible for your daily budget. The problem is there, though, is that it usually inflates the numbers. So maximize clicks works by bidding for the lowest quality traffic, the cheapest traffic possible. So you get things like informational based searches, you get things like free and used and secondhand because it's cheap traffic at the end of the day. But if you're looking at the data top level where you say, this is great, I'm getting like 50, maybe 100 clicks a day. I'm winning at life. But when you start to unravel the data, you start to look at the data and take a deep dive, you see that the searches you're getting could be, how much is it to do X? Where can I find this? Are there any X like reviews, and is this free and things like that? Really low quality searches coming through, and that's how maximize click works. It basically inflates the number of clicks you get by bidding on low quality searches. So I don't really tend to use it anymore. And also, it's not conversion based. It's just trying to get you as many clicks as possible with something such as like maximize conversions. It's clearly trying to get people to perform an action on the website. It's looking for people who are most likely to perform a certain action, whether that's fill out a form, make a purchase, whatever it might be. That's the goal of maximize conversions. It's to look at people who are most likely to perform a certain action and then double down on that. So maximize clicks, not conversion based, usually just trying to get you as many clicks as possible. But it has its place. It does have its place. If you're not an experienced advertiser, if you're a business owner, or if you're just somebody who is running ads and you just want to get your ads out there, you don't have the time to learn all the other different bidding strategies, or you don't have the time to learn how to do Google Ads, then just getting something out there, maximize clicks, will get the job done to a degree. Gene, hello. Do you
Hi.
use maximize clicks?
Yeah,
Have you
so
got any experience with it?
yeah, so sometimes I do use maximize clicks if for some reason the manual CPC that I set isn't getting the impressions or the clicks that I want. Sometimes that means I'm over targeting or being too niche on a particular phrase or exact. So it kind of gives me an idea if I'm able to switch something from manual CPC to maximize clicks, where I could kind of play in the spaces for search terms to maybe even in the future switch it back to manual CPC once you get that data in. But I usually do use maximize clicks, especially for shopping campaigns. Especially if you're dry on the conversions and putting it directly to a conversion value may not be, or max conversion value might not be available, or for target return on ad spend is not available because you don't have enough conversions, or you don't want to go straight into a maximized conversion value conversion strategy because you don't have the data, it's just going to be trash. So I would go max clicks and maybe take a look at and see if we could back into a manual CPC again. But or if you have a client that's like super overbearing and can't stand the process that you have, of you have to have like a week in advance to be able to, get something in from manual CPC. They're just like, where's the clicks? Maybe I'll just turn it on for just to keep them quiet or satisfied. But other than that, maximize clicks is kind of like the microwavable bid strategy, and you don't want to microwave things in Google Ads. You want to do things where there's thought and process behind it, and it's almost better to get the data a little bit slower, because if you don't have your negative keyword list in play for maximize clicks, you might not get the amount of data that you want anyway because of those irrelevant clicks. So if you were to do max clicks, I suggest at least the baseline platforms of brands that say, that are competitors, or Amazon, or research keywords that maybe be who, why, what, when, where, versus reviews. Those need to be in your keyword list ready to go if you're going to do that.
That's a really good point. Thank you for explaining that. I think we know all the different bidding strategies. We've used all the different bidding strategies. Maybe we don't use them as much as we do. I mean, I know you're a big fan of maximize conversion value, which you're going to get into later. I'm a big fan of manual. I know you've just started to use manual. I'm opening my senses up a little bit more to maximize conversion value. So we know them all, but we use them in different ways. We all have different strategies. So it's just interesting to hear your kind of thoughts on that. So thank you. But
yeah,
getting on to the final one then for me, which is maximize conversions, target CPA. And this can only now really be used when you use maximize conversions. It used to be a separate bidding strategy, target CPA, but you don't have that option anymore. You just have maximize conversions, target CPA. And Gene's going to explain maximize conversions a little later on. But what target CPA does is that it basically, if you are very keen on keeping profit margins and keeping healthy margins in your business, then target CPA could be a really good bidding strategy for you. You basically tell the system, I'm happy to pay $15, £20, €50, whatever it might be, to generate a conversion. And then Google is going to go out and try and hit that goal for you. Again, I don't typically use target CPA bidding strategy anymore, because my feelings towards it is that you're adding a restriction to the bidding strategy at the end of the day. You're adding a limiter to the performance, because you're telling Google, go out and get me a conversion that fits a certain boxed criteria that I'm going to set. And the problem with that is that you could be leaving conversions on the table. You might say, well, I'm happy to spend £20, $20, whatever it is, to generate a conversion. Okay, that's great. But what if conversions are costing £30, $30, $50, £50? You're leaving a lot of conversion volume on the table, because you're saying, I only want to get conversions that fit $20, £20 or better. So I never really like to use target CPA anymore for that reason, unless a business owner is very strict and saying, no, we need to keep a margin. We need to make sure that our margins are intact. We cannot spend any more than X amount on a conversion through Google Ads. So we need it to be whatever that figure is. So if that's the point, then, target CPA can come into its own. But you can't just go in and add it from the get-go. Google say that you need at least 15 to 30 conversions on a monthly basis. I would say if you've got 3 months where you've been getting 15, 20, 30 conversions each and every month, then at that point, switching over to maximize conversions and maximize conversions target CPA is a really good option for you at that point. But like I said, you've got to set a realistic goal. So many times when I audit client accounts and things like that, I see that they've got their target CPA to set to like $5 or like $2.50 or like £5, and it's just not reasonable. It's not realistic. I don't think in 2024 and onwards that we're ever going to get conversions, good quality conversions, for that cheap, for that cost effective anymore. I think it's going to be more around the 15, the 12, probably 10 if you're lucky. If you're really doing a lot of things right, you're converting really, really well. I think £10, $10 is probably the lowest you might see it. But that's going to be one of the best websites, one of the best campaigns you're going to set up. Typically, I see conversions coming in around 20, 25, all the way up to 50 pounds and dollars. So yeah, I think make sure if you're going to use target CPA that you set a realistic goal going forward. So yeah, Gene, what's your thoughts on that target CPA?
Yeah, I mean, you want to set a target CPA based on historical cost per conversion because target CPA stands for the target of cost per acquisition. If an acquisition is a conversion, then that's the same as cost per conversion, right? So, um, what I see incorrectly with people that use this is they're trying, like Ryan said, if historically the target CPA, the cost per conversion is $20, they're setting it for 5 or like 10. It's like you can't, just because you use an automated bid strategy, doesn't matter if it's target return on ad spend or target CPA, and you're lowering it, or it's not what actual, when it says there's actual return on ad spend or your actual cost per conversion, it's way off where you're trying to strain Google ads to try to get to that specific target CPA or ROAS. You're not going to hit it. I'll tell you that right now. So I think that's one of the big things that people think, just because I said it or I moved from target CPA from a different bid strategy, that now it's going to automatically start hitting where I want it to be. You still have to make the optimizations. You still have to, before you can get to that point, understand historically where you're at and then set it a little bit, either at that point, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but never too crazy. I always set it lower. And then I see, okay, well, it's getting that point. Then I'll start to continue to increase it or decrease it at this point if you're talking about target CPA. So, but yeah, set a realistic target, as Ryan said.
And I think that's a really good point. I always set it lower as well when I have used it in the past. And it's something that I'm going to test real soon as well, because it's been probably over 6, maybe even 9 months since I've really used Target CPA. So I'm due to test it again. And what you can do is use a bit of a stair step approach with it. And I usually advise people to do this. So, for example, if you're seeing that your cost per conversion is coming in at around £50 or $50, and let's say your goal, for example, would be 30. If you got it down to 30, then that'd be great. Maybe even 25. So you want to halve it. So rather than say, right, I'm going to set the cost per acquisition to $25 or £25, set it to 45. Wait until you reach that 45 goal, that $45 goal, that $45 or pound target. Then once you're at 45, just let it sit for a week, maybe 14 days, and then go down to 40. So do a stair step approach, and then over time, slow and steady wins the race. And you want to bring it down all the way down to about, $30 or £30. And at that point, one of two things could happen. Either conversion volume drops off quite substantially, at which point you want to raise it back to the point where you were last profitable, where you were happy, you were getting this volume of conversions coming in. That's what you want. Or, you achieve that goal and you're still getting conversions. So one of those two things could happen. If it's the latter, if you get in those conversions coming in and you hitting your target, then great. You've achieved that. If you're not, if conversions have started to drop off, just take it back up a notch to the last level that you were profitable at. What do you think, Gene?
Yeah, for sure. I think it like you said, is a stair step approach. To even get more stair steppy, if you have a particular campaign that you're running and you're thinking of switching it to target CPA, run an experiment first. That's what Ryan talked about earlier. So that means, you're really taking it slow. You're not, overloading the system, saying that you want to reach a particular CPA, target CPA, right from a different bid strategy. You're going to go straight into that. I always like to, if I'm going from manual to automated, doesn't matter if it's CPA or ROAS, I do a 60-40 split. I'll do like a 40% split on the previous bid strategy, and then 60 for the other budget for what I want to go into, if it be target CPA or return on ad spend. So yeah, I definitely agree that you should take things slow and make sure it's a process and approach that doesn't overwhelm the system and you're doing it in a stair step manner.
That sounds good. And so I want to do something a little bit different in this episode. and Gene and I have talked about it. Maybe introducing a new little segment. I don't know if we need a little jingle for this as well. It'd be kind of cool
Yeah.
just to
Cute.
have a little bit of a bit of a music number. Um, yeah. Um, Test of the week. I think it would be good to just every now and then check in with Gene and I and see, are you doing anything new? Are you testing anything different that you would normally do? You know? And so for me, I've recently started testing maximize conversion value more, which Gene is going to talk about soon. But normally, when I'm running performance max campaigns, specifically performance max, I use maximize conversions. And for one client, actually for two clients now, I've just switched over to maximize conversion value. I'm really pleased so far after like the first week that I've switched over to it. For one client has taken their conversion volume just through the roof. Not volume, but more value, I would say. So whereas before we were kind of getting smaller like conversions and sales coming through. Now we're getting much bigger, larger valued orders coming through. So I'm really, really pleased about that. And then the other one that I'm testing is a broad and exact match strategy. So to historically, I would normally use a phrase and exact match approach, ensure that quality coming in. But now what I'm actually doing for this lead generation client is I'm not using phrase match. I want to test just a handful of broad. So I've got like three, maybe five broad match keywords in this one search campaign, and the rest exact match. So I probably have five broad match and about 15 exact match keywords in there. And I just want to see because in that way you're kind of playing into Google hands a little bit. You're using broad match, which they love to push. So you're getting that awareness, you're getting that reach, but at the same time with the exact match, you're getting that quality, that search quality coming through. So you're getting best of both worlds. So I want to try and see what happens if I cut out the middleman of phrase match and see how that goes. So yeah, that's what I'm testing this week or this month, if you like. Gina, are you testing anything new or?
Yeah. So, I like this segment for sure. Testing something new is kind of like what all Google Ads managers should be doing. It doesn't even matter if it's specific Google Ads tactics or strategies that you're testing new, or even maybe a different approach, like you're trying new software or trying different scripts. I think you should always be testing to try to see if you could either optimize what you have or just be more efficient with what you have with the data that you have to sift through because it's so much. So, but yeah, aside from that, I am testing, and I kind of alluded this earlier. I usually would do an experiment where the budget is like 50-50 because I'm so scared that the conversions aren't going to come in the way that they were. But I'm more so favoring a 60-40 split now, 60 being the new bid strategy that I'm trying to introduce, which is basically me trying to introduce an automated bid strategy, and 40 percent budget for what has existed in the past. So, for me, I think that's really important because sometimes we see an inconclusive test where we're like, okay, this just basically ran for X amount of months and it's like it's 50-50, so if I really want to get that snapshot of the budget split, for me, instead of going 50-50, I'm doing 60 on the new bid strategy and 40 on the existing one. So it's kind of what I'm doing.
That's cool. That's really cool to hear. I can't wait to see the results of that one as well. So you'll have to share when you
Yeah.
have enough data to kind of say what worked and what didn't. So yeah, but I think you're going to talk more about the e-commerce side of things in terms of the bidding strategies that are available for, standard shopping campaigns, performance max campaigns. So I'll let you take to the floor and take it away.
Yeah, appreciate that, Ryan. And just to kind of piggyback off that comment, we want to make everyone know this, and this is a well-known fact. Ryan is just not lead gen. He is e-commerce too. Okay, guys? So let's not forget that. Just because he's getting pigeoned into this lead gen part, because I don't do as much lead gen, which I am doing more now, aka one client. Don't forget Ryan does e-commerce too, and he's great at e-commerce also. So
Thank you very much.
of
Appreciate that.
course. Of course, brother. So getting into it, we're talking about bid strategies such as max conversion value. And one of the reasons why I think it's important to differentiate this is because of the new and upcoming campaign type, performance max, where it's max conversions or max conversion value. Those are the two primary bid strategies that you could use when you begin a performance max campaign. And so a lot of people maybe ask and say, when is it max conversion value and when is it max conversions? So for me, max conversion value does really well when it's e-commerce based and you have a plethora of different products at different price points. Of course, we want to go where the conversions are at, but utilizing max conversion value will not negate the conversion volume and be more into conversion value, but it'll just prove more weight on the value side of how much you're actually getting. So if you're have two products, you have one product that's $10 or £10, you have another one that's 50, it'll really try to push that higher value product as opposed to the lower one. So I think this works well if you have a pretty large disparity in pricing. Maybe your pricing is all over the place and you have rubber bands that you're selling for $5 and then you have something that's way more expensive, that's something that you want to push without really getting the performance max product groups too tight. You know, you could run this max conversion value and it'll naturally push those higher premium products through the Google networks. So yeah, that's one performance max beginner bid strategy that you know, kind of leads more to the e-commerce side. So for max conversions, when do I use max conversions as a bid strategy? Well, if it's P max and the max conversion value isn't working, that's when I'll use max conversions, just because, you know, like Ryan said, it's not going to give you as much of, you know, a parameter. It's not going to really limit you as much because you're basically just telling Google conversion, any conversion, please, we need something. So I think this works well if max conversion value hasn't worked. Maybe your budget is too low to do max conversion value because Google is saying, okay, you're selling a $5,000 product, but your spend on PMax is $25 a day and you want max conversion value. No, that's not how it works. You have to pay, you know, a particular percentage of what you're actually selling to Google Ads. We're not just going to give you, you know, $10,000 sales through Google Ads and you're spending $5 a day. So for someone that has maybe a lower price point, or maybe the disparity between the products that you're offering isn't that much, you know, maybe you have products that are between $5 to $10, you know, maybe that percentage is only deviant or only has a variation of like 5 to 10%. So that's one, you know, way to use max conversions. Or even if you're trying to just do like opt-ins on the lead gen side, right, and you're assigning conversion value as a 1 or a 2 or a 3 across the board. I think those are good ways to use max conversions. But primarily, I only use this if it's a performance max campaign. You know, I would want to do that stair step approach, like Ryan said, you know, to go manual and then, you know, do a test experiment to kind of graduate to an automated bid strategy. Gun to my head, if I have to use a particular bid strategy on performance max, I'm going to use one of these. Any questions about max conversion value or max conversions, Ryan?
Yeah, actually a few. I think we kind of use maximize conversions and maximize conversion value differently, you know, because I actually start with maximize conversions just to kind of get some conversion data in the campaign to begin with. And then once I've got that, I'll look usually to switch over to maximize conversion value. I've always been a little bit like, what's the word? Undecided or unsure of maximize conversion value. I've never really truly understood what it means. Is it just maximizing the value of the conversions and the orders that you're getting in? Is it something else? So it's always kind of thrown me off of using it, which is why I wanted to test it recently with this other client. Just for the purposes of this, I mean, the client that I've got have high ticket items, not crazy, but you know, relatively high. And whereas before we were getting like 300, 400, 500 pound months, which is okay, you know, for this client. They've only recently just started Google advertising properly. They were running a smart campaign before. Whereas now this month I thought, well, let's see what happens switching them over to maximize conversion value. And all of a sudden, from about £300 spent, we've got like one and a half coming up to £2,000 in revenue, which is crazy. So it'll be their best month yet. So it looks like we use it differently. And my question, you kind of answered it, is when do you use maximize conversion value? But you do it to begin with, which is different to me, because I use maximize conversions and switch. You use maximize conversion value and then switch. So I think you've already kind of answered that one. The other one I was going to say I can't remember because I'm old, and as I talk, I forget things. So I really need to write things down. So I can't remember. You said something about maximize conversions, and I'm just looking at your show notes, what you mentioned. I can't remember, to be fair, what you said, but I'm sure we'll get to it if you want to continue. If I think about it, I'll ask.
Yeah, for sure. I might have went off script there, but yeah, if you figure it out, just let me know and we could go through that. But yeah, that's kind of how I use max conversion value and max conversions. Like I said, this is kind of exclusive to Performance Max, for me. There's so many other bid strategies, as Ryan mentioned. Manual is, if you have the ability to use manual, especially in your search campaigns, definitely use them just because you have so much, control. And I think Ryan spoke about this a little earlier too with the secondary bid adjustments. I think you're correct. Like even if you graduate your campaign to any target return on ad spend or max conversions, conversion value, I thought you lose all, even locations, and devices if you do that. Like they'll just say you're using an automated bid strategy. Why are you worried about locations? No, we're Google. You're basically handing the keys over. So if you anyway, yeah. So definitely use these max conversion value conversions where you have to, i.e. PMax campaigns. But yeah, moving on to target return on ad spend. When do I use target return on ad spend? When we have enough conversion volume. Is kind of what Google Ads says, right? That max conversion volume. This is by the book. It has to be 15 or 30. I believe that yes, as a baseline, that's good, right? But I also look at other things like actual return on ad spend. If I see in the last 30, 60, and 90 cascading upwards actual return on ad spend, and then maybe the current month and then the next month, you see it kind of like stay at a particular spot, then I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's the ceiling of where I should set the target return on ad spend. So for me, it's not only the volume that comes in, is my actual historical actual return on ad spend, which you could calculate as conversion value over cost. Is it consistent, right? Because if I'm looking at 3 months of data and I see, I'm seeing 15 or 30 conversions, but then the return on ad spend, actual return on ad spend is up and down. Where would you even set that? Are you leaving money on the table if you set it too high or low? So for me, it's not only just the conversion volume. Yes, that's the first qualifier, but understand where your actual return on ad spend is, and is that number consistent? And then you can set it. Like me and Ryan do, we set it a little bit lower just because you don't want to put too much strain or too much specificity with Google Ads. You want Google Ads to still be able to flow through the data, show it this time, even though back then it didn't, it never converted on a Monday, but your target return on ad spend has a lot of slack where you can still show on Monday, still show on the days on Friday, Saturday, Sunday where you usually convert. So that's the thought process behind setting the target return on ad spend a little bit lower than your actual return on ad spend from a larger data set. Some people will say, but Gene, I have a target return on ad spend of 5,000. And I'm like, okay, is that 5,000 in the last 7 days? Or is that 5,000 in the last 14 days? Or is it an actual prolonged time where it's consistent? Any thoughts on that, on setting or target return on ad spend, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's a bit of a what would you call it? A theme at the moment, kind of going around about using low target ROAS bidding strategies for standard shopping campaigns that work quite well. I've been testing that as well, and I've seen mixed results. I've seen some accounts where it's worked really well, others where it's not really picked up and performed that well. So I'm continuing to test it, but that's something where you get in that it's like 140% or and you say, well, that's really, really low. And it's supposed to be because Google says, well, I can outperform that. The barrier of entry is so low. Let me go out and get you a 200% or a 300% return. And I can easily get those for you. So it's going to bid more aggressively. It's going to get you those conversions and it's going to outperform that low target that you set. I have not really set a target return on ad spend higher for a long time. It's always been low, like you mentioned. It's not been like, okay, well, I want a 10-to-1 ROAS, so let's set it at like 10,000% or whatever. I've always just kind of gone in low with it. So yeah, I mean, one of the questions I had for you was regarding T ROAS, target ROAS. How do you scale performance? Like, what's your target ROAS strategy?
Mm. Yeah, so it depends, right? If we're talking search or if we're talking shopping or if we're talking performance max. If we're
Shopping.
talking
Let's go shopping. Yeah.
okay. So for shopping, I would definitely look into dwindling the products, the product groups. If you have a fat product group offering where you have 10 to 20 different products, and then you could see on the product group level of conversion value over cost or ROAS. Well, anything that's under the particular conversion value over cost or ROAS that you're trying to set to scale, if you're trying to go from 3 to 4, well, anything that's under 3, maybe you start thinking of, okay, let's look at what the cost benefit is if I was to lose this particular product. Return on ad spend in theory could go up because there's no frivolous spend on that particular product, just because maybe up against other products in that group it just doesn't do as well. Or maybe just looking at that particular product, how can you get that conversion value over cost or ROAS up? Well, I go into the Google Merchant Center. That's a big thing. People forget that. Or you're at the mercy of Google Merchant Center. It doesn't matter if your product page is good, but you're at the mercy of GMC. So go into the GMC, switch around the titles. Switch around the titles. A lot of people don't even use the 300 or 500 character titles. They're using like 20 words. Not keyword stuff, guys. Okay, let's not do that. But let's be descriptive, right? Let's be descriptive. Look into the descriptions. Right? Look into your descriptions specifically for shopping. Did you use close to that 5,000 characters where you're not just, BSing on a couple different things, going on ChatGPT, you're actually describing the product. The more descriptors that you have on the Google Merchant Center side, that'll transfer into the shopping, and maybe it'll be put in front of people that are actually higher intent. If it's put in front of people that have a higher intent, maybe that return on ad spend can scale up. So I think that's the biggest thing, is looking at it from a product group level, looking at the laggers when it comes to the return on ad spend of the scale, maybe underperforming, get into the particular products, product pages, and also the GMC, making sure that your Google product category is set. That's a big one, or even another thing. This is a pro tip. So if you have particular products that, say you do Google shopping and you have a clothing store, right? And you know that there's a particular product that you're showing all the variants for that product, but only the green variant sells. Well, why are you showing the black and blue variant of that product? Yeah, it's sold before, but as a whole, just create it so it's that particular variant that have sold. Or maybe you have another product, right? You're selling, I have a caviar client. Well, caviar is more expensive as heavier as it is, right? We're just trying to get people to get on Google Shopping and click. All they have is your picture, your title, and your price. If you're showing the 10-ounce variant of a caviar and it's $10,000, and then the next one right next to it is 300. Why don't you scale down and just show only the smallest, cheapest variant that's 2 ounce? And if they want to upgrade to that, they can do that because they already got the click and they could do on your product page. So those are the things that you have to, if you want to scale return on ad spend, especially on Google Shopping, make sure you get into the GMC, make sure you're looking at the particular shopping, actual search, and see who you're next to the competitors, and that you're not priced out of your competition.
That's really interesting. I think you got a little bit angry there talking about caviar or something. You were getting very passionate.
I'm trying to get. I'm trying. I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about after about this one. But yeah, I got a little passionate there.
You did. No, it's great to see. But we it sounds like we use the same methodology, because I do the same thing. If I see that return on ad spend isn't where it should be, the first thing I'm going to take a look at is the listing groups, the product catalog, product groups rather, on Performance Max, and start looking at, okay, well, where's the budget being spent? Where are we lagging behind on certain products? Is this product even breaking even? Is it getting a good return on ad spend or not? And then I might even look to pause and start looking to exclude certain products. Or if it's a standard shopping campaign, I might reduce the bid heavily. So I'm not spending as much budget on that specific product anymore, because it's had its chance, it's not been profitable. And this is what I say to a lot of people, especially when I do the audits and it's an e-commerce business. It's not like we're excluding the product from the website. People can still purchase the product when they land on the website. You've got to see the products inside Google Ads as more of like a hook, as more of like a product listing ad. It's just like from A to B. So when you advertise the product on Google Shopping, they can click on it, but they may not purchase that product. They might start browsing the rest of the website, and they may click on a t-shirt or a cap, but they may buy a pair of sneakers or trainers or shoes or whatever it might be. So it's not like we're excluding the product from the website. We're only excluding the product from being advertised on, because historically we spent a lot of money. It's just not giving us a profitable return. So that's where I kind of look to optimize a lot of the products, and look to scale, target ROAS and things like that. But again, something that I've experienced is that not all brands are created equally. I've had clients in the past, and I'm sure, Gene, you might remember, where I've had certain clients and they say, we want a 15-to-1 return on ad spend, or we want a 10-to-1 return on ad spend. And it's just impossible, because the price point is not there. You can't say, right, well, my product costs $5 or £10, and we want a 10-to-1 return on ad spend. It's always going to be an uphill battle. However, if the product costs $5,000 or £5,000, it's much easier to achieve a higher return on ad spend, because obviously the price point is different. So don't always get bogged down about ROAS. Do what you can, but it's obviously very dependent on the business and the product price itself. So yeah.
Yeah. And another piggyback off that, don't get obsessed about target return on ad spend if, like we said before, you don't have the consistent conversion volume. You could tank all that you've done manually or whatever it may be before you graduated to an automated bid strategy like ROAS if you prematurely switch over, right? So it's really, really important to understand, okay, this is the consistent conversion volume that I have. Actual ROAS is really, really being consistent at this level. I'm going to slowly ease myself into it, maybe utilizing an experiment, and then see, okay, after the experiment has ran an adequate amount of time, is this, a good switch? So a lot of the times I go by the adage, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But us as Google Ads managers, we always want the greener grass on the other side. So, if you want that, do it in a methodical process, where you're not just, throwing everything out and switching right away, and you have a ridiculous, target ROAS threshold that you want. And also look at it from two perspectives, right? If you want good target return on ad spend, everybody does. That's, the baseline of what we want as Google Ads managers. Is it worth it? It's not your account. So ask the client, ask the customer, your boss, hey boss, I have a target return on ad spend. Do we want to hold it right here, Or do we want a little bit more conversion value? Yes, we're going to pay a little bit more, but maybe we can get them into our funnel, utilize email marketing, stretch that initial cost out through PPC, and then we're still sitting at a good space, not worrying about a 5 return on ad spend. We're good at 2 or 3, you know? So that's one thing that we have to understand is you could have a crazy high return on ad spend, but what about the conversion value? You know, what about that part? So consult with your clients or your boss, you know, or yourself, whatever, you know, that's a two-pronged thing is what I'm trying to say.
It's a really good point. And I don't think it's something that can just be achieved overnight. You know, I think when Gene and I take clients on, it's something you have to build up to. It's something that you work towards. You know, the client says, oh, we want a 5-to-1, we want an 8-to-1 return on ad spend. Well, you know, the first month might just be stability. It might just be finding that framework, that foundation. Okay, what are we naturally getting in terms of a ROAS? And then working towards that 5-to-1, that 8-to-1 return ad spend. It could be 6, 9, 12 months before we get to the goal, because slow and steady wins the race. It's what I always say. So, you know, it's not going to happen overnight, but for certain businesses, it can be achieved. For others, it's just, you know, you might just be where you are, and you might just have to say, well, we'll take a 2-to-1, a 3-to-1 return on ad spend, as long as we've got the value coming through. So that's a really good point. Just a couple more questions from me then for Gene, and then we'll wrap this up, I think. When do you find maximized conversion value works best? I mean, specifically low priced products, high priced products, small product feed, a large product catalog. I mean, when do you find maximized conversion value works best?
Yeah, I mean, maximize conversion value works best, in my opinion, when it's a bigger catalog on the Google Merchant Center. And maybe, you know, for me, I always use it as the beginner thing for PMax. You know, I'm not going to go through it to a shopping or wherever else and use that. I don't know if I could even use that on search, but, you know, so it's only PMax, right? And if it's a big catalog and there's a lot of, you know, product offerings that may deviate from one price range. It could go from 10 to, you know, 50 to 1,000 to 500, you know, and you have that. And it's like, okay, where do I start on the Performance Max level? You know, so I think for me, it is usually just on PMax, and starting out on PMax, if it's a lot of different products that vary in ranges of price. And my goal is to have a high conversion value, and, you know, with that, have a high return on ad spend, right?
Cool. No, that sounds good. So what if it was, say, a client of yours with 100 products, maybe 250 products? Would you still start with maximize conversion value, or would you choose maximize conversions?
Yeah, I would still go with max conversion value for sure. I would always go with max. It would probably be easier to answer when would I not go with max conversion value. I
Sure.
think because you know, it's just for me, it's always primarily e-commerce. But yeah, the only time that I wouldn't go with max conversion value is if the variants or the product offerings are just all the same. Even if it was all $1,000, to me, I would just go with max conversions, because at that point, if there's no deviation in price, I just want the volume, because all of the offerings are 1,000 anyway, or all the offerings are 10,000 anyway. So I just want whatever, you know. So that's kind of when I would only use or not use max conversion value, and I would use max conversions.
And this is really interesting because, like I said, I always use maximize conversions to start with Performance Max, because my thinking is, you know, you need to kind of show Google this is what a conversion looks like. Let's just get some conversions coming in, and then we can worry about maximizing the conversion value later down the line. So, do you feel like we need to kind of teach the system a little bit? What's your success with just starting with maximize conversion value? It sounds like it's been quite good, right? So,
I mean, it depends. I think since, I mean, like I said, this is only exclusive to Performance Max. When I use these two, I think getting the signals in through search, you know, is kind of like backing it up even more before even talking about conversions or max conversion value. Is how are we looking on the search terms and the conversion volume on search? and usually that's a good indicator that I could use max conversion value or even max conversions, and there's going to be something there where the algorithm or the system is trained, because by osmosis that search campaign onwards to the performance max campaign will be the same signals used. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of. But usually for max conversion value, man, it there are times where it doesn't work. There are times where I'm like running it and it's not just 1 month it doesn't work. It's a prolonged like 3 or 4 months where it is maybe working, but the conversion volume isn't there. And what I see for that, if you have a large catalog in e-commerce, maybe a lot of the higher priced items that you have, it's just not it. You're maybe have too many competitors for those higher priced items, and maybe your Google Merchant Center pages are just terrible for that. Yeah, you're eligible limited for a lot of those higher ticket price items, or maybe you're even just out of stock. So it doesn't know where to place it if you have a max conversion value bid strategy and your higher end, higher price items are just lagging when it comes to your GMC optimizations, or just in general limited or out of stock. And then at that point, I'll switch it to a max conversions, and then those lower products will start to sell. And you're like, okay, well, this is what we have. We can't force Google to sell those high end products when we're not competitive. Not a bid strategy is not going to make that better. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I'll switch down to max conversions, and then you'll start seeing those smaller conversions come in.
That's cool. That's really cool. And this is what's nice, guys, about the PPC Cave is that, you guys don't just learn. I learn new things as well from Gene. And I'm sure it's reciprocated the other way. I'm sure Gene learns one or two things from me every now and then.
Yeah, of course.
But this is what's really cool because, now I'm probably more inclined to try starting a new performance max with maximized conversion value. So that's just something to keep on my last question from me then is favorite bidding strategy and why?
Ooh, I think I have to pick like a couple, right? I don't know. You know what, man? I think it might surprise you. I am really liking manual CPC as of late. No enhance
Wow.
CPC, manual CPC. Right? Just because I do use a lot of PMax. So, guys, like, I mean, I still use shopping. All right. But if I want to really make my PMax max conversion value bid strategy work, I have to be so targeted with the search campaign that I could toggle it up and down, mess with it, bring this broad match in, see how that sets it afire, whatever it may be. So that kind of like crazy, like super manual with the search and super automated with max conversion value kind of goes well together. So I don't know, man. That's kind of where I'm at. I think I have two favorite ones, I guess, that work in tandem. What about you?
Yeah, for sure. It's always going to be manual for me. I like having that like control. I'm a big believer in manual bidding. I do like maximize conversions, I must admit. If I had to pick my favorite automated bidding strategy right now, maximize conversions. But I do want to, like I said, I do want to see how maximize conversion value goes. I do want to see how, target CPA goes again, because I've been very pigeonholed the last few months and just using manual and maximize conversion. So I'm trying to open and broaden my horizons a little bit more. So we'll see. So it's always going to be manual, but I'm always going to have a second or third favorite. It's just trying to figure out which one it could be right now. So yeah.
Yeah. And like, to add on to that, like another thing that I just want to add on is with max conversion value, you really have to let it run. Max conversions, I feel like maybe there's a stigma that max conversions, the conversions will happen in a week or two or like real quick, which probably is the case. Because it is a lower, targeting just conversions basically. But for max conversion value, one thing to note is if your client has a very long sales cycle where there needs to be multiple touch points here, maybe a YouTube ad there, maybe you go target them again on search, whatever it may be. I think max conversion value could work, but you really have to give it time. I mean, just like anything in Google Ads. So if you were to actually do a max conversion value experiment, I would run it for the full like 2 to 3 months, to really see where it's at. So that's just my 2 cents.
No, that's really cool. And I think that's everything. I think we've kind of ran through all the different bidding strategies, that are currently in Google Ads at the moment. Obviously, we've seen some come and go and things like that. But for now, we've kind of touched on them all. And I think that's everything, unless you've got anything else you'd like to chirp in with an ad, or are we good to close out?
It's funny because we forgot to talk about like target search impression. Were we supposed to talk about that? Like we never use that. I never use target search impression share. Just want to throw it out there. So,
No.
but yeah, I think we're good.
We didn't talk about target search impression share. We didn't talk about like all the YouTube ones like cost
Yeah.
per metric, I think it is, and
CPM, yeah.
CPV and things like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, but this is because, primarily we run like search and shopping campaigns. Like I run the odd YouTube campaign here and there, and I never tend to. I don't think I've ever used target impression share. And just to kind of quickly wrap that one up, the reason why is because I think you can just achieve the same results, if not better, with manual bidding. So you might as well just use manual bidding, because all you're doing there is, again, controlling how much market share you get when using the bidding strategy. And that can easily, it can be achieved through manual bidding. So I'm going to leave it there. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, for listening to another episode of the PPC Cave with me, Ryan Fenton. You can find me at ryanfentonppc.co.uk. Gene, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, you could find me at genevillanos.com. Gene Villanos on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere.
Wow. Maybe I should have like said a lot more. Like you can find me here, there, and everywhere. But no, we're everywhere. The show is on Spotify, I believe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, obviously TikTok, Instagram. So if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Just message the show. We've got the Gmail account up and running, the ppccave@gmail.com. So we're happy to answer any question you guys have. We offer audits, consultation calls, ongoing monthly management. So if you're interested, just reach out to us and we'll see how we can help you with your project. Listen out for us. We'll be back on Monday, Mountain Time, with a new episode in the series. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and speak to you guys soon.